Okay, this is kind of like a feedback loop that happens. So I have this feeling, oh, it doesn't feel good. I remember when I felt that way. And then you go to the mind and you mine out something from the past or some anxiety from the future. You give it a bunch of meaning, you give it a bunch of more energy. And now you've got the energy in motion again, the emotion, and then it feels even worse. And then you continue to go to the mind and you build more on the story. It pulls from your belief systems, these faulty beliefs from when you were a child or from a negative program or from too much social media or watching the news, all these things that are in the mind now, giving all this meaning to this feeling that just wanted to come to pass. And you see how you can down spiral very quickly. That's how that happens. And this is not a coherent way for your masculine, feminine energies to be working. Hey there, Alix here. This is part 3 in really creating, I don't know the title yet, but in just really creating this new reality that's in union, that's in a unity consciousness, Christ consciousness, which is residing in the heart and manifesting like you would not believe, okay? And being in your dharma, being of purpose in the world, okay, because of this alignment. So it's self-healing, it's everything. It's really where we want to be for the most part, unless you want to play on the dark side, which is fine too. That is your choice. I do not judge, but you probably wouldn't be on this channel. So if you did not watch parts 1 and 2 yet, please make sure you do. I'll make sure I click that I have them in the description down below. And of course, on the end of my second video, I also did talk a little bit about some of the work that I do in terms of helping to alchemize and get your energies really back into alignment quickly. And so if you want to learn a little bit more about that, again, watch the other videos, but check in the description box and you'll be able to learn about what it looks like to work with me. Okay, so what I want to talk about today is the day-to-day. How are we managing and balancing our energy every day in order to let go of the toxic emotions and distortions as they're like being formed that are formulated between the emotions and the mental body. So between the masculine and the feminine, we're dealing with our emotions and with our with what we're feeling and what we're thinking. And as they come into a balance, again, we come into this beautiful harmonious inner union of the masculine feminine, which then really unlocks our multidimensionality. This is considered our spirit light vehicle, the Merkaba. It's a star tetrahedron. It's an incredible structure. I won't go all into that. It's fascinating. You can look that up. But I like to use the little symbols just to kind of show we are imbalanced. Okay. So we have a negative polarity and a positive polarity. And in every moment, this is basically how you balance. In every moment, in the present moment, when you have something in the world that comes in, which is you've created, okay, this is your universe, you are an aspect of the all, and you've created everything that's going on. So when you are present to what's happening outside of you, it's coming to you for a reason. If it's karmic, it's because you're not paying attention and it's just going to hit you and you need to deal with it. You're dealing with it in a karmic way. But if it's on purpose, then you're open and you're present and you're able to work with what's happening. Okay. So if something comes to pass, literally it's supposed to pass through you, but you feel it get stopped on you. It gets stuck and you feel a closure somewhere in usually the lower 3 chakras or the heart. You feel a little bit of a tightness or a closure, and you can feel it because you're present. You're not, you may feel it and be unconscious, okay, and then get immediately reactive. So anytime you're going into reaction, you are not conscious in that moment. You are working in the past and the future, and you will not be able to balance it out. You'll just see it later and be like, ah, okay, next time. And that's fine too. Just know that when you feel a feeling, it's to be passed through. And so the most important thing in that is to become aware of the feeling. You can even get curious about what is the texture of it. Where is it? Is it moving around? Just kind of witness and watch it and allow it to move through and to do its thing. It's really just wants to alchemize itself. It's coming up to be cleared. It feels bad because it's trapped. It's stuck. It's not coherent, it's chaotic. And so it will naturally, organically come back into coherence by allowing it the space to be. So this is So powerful, just being with the emotion and the feeling, I should say, excuse me, the feeling. And so sometimes the feeling happens, we already immediately go to the mind, which gives it meaning. And then we have an emotion because of that, that further adds negative energy to it. Okay, this is kind of like a feedback loop that happens. So I have this feeling, oh, it doesn't feel good. I remember when I felt that way. And then you go to the mind and you mine out something from the past or some anxiety from the future. You give it a bunch of meaning, you give it a bunch of more energy. And now you've got the energy in motion again, the emotion, and then it feels even worse. And then you continue to go to the mind and you build more on the story. It pulls from your belief systems, these faulty beliefs from when you were a child or from a negative program or from too much social media or watching the news, all these things that are in the mind now, giving all this meaning to this feeling that just wanted to come to pass. And you see how you can down spiral very quickly. That's how that happens. And this is not a coherent way for your masculine, feminine energies to be working. Okay. It's totally normal. This is separation consciousness. This is distorted masculine, feminine energies is the realm of separation. This is unity. This is when they're working together. So as you start to recognize this, the feminine is going to probably go more into the victim. Like, oh, I don't even have to necessarily separate out the masculine, feminine when it comes to the specific feelings or emotions, but you might find yourself feeling like, oh, this always happens to me. I'm, this kind of a victim mentality, or you might try to seize control over it and push it outside of you and project it and get angry and so on. So there's different ways, but you'll just start to notice, wow, what am I doing here? And so when you can catch yourself in the moment and just realize that all that happened was a feeling came to pass. Now, if you just witnessed something and you didn't have the feeling yet, but you witnessed something, you gave it a meaning that created the emotion, then you had the feeling, it doesn't really matter, chicken or egg, which comes first. It's to bring consciousness to it, and consciousness is awareness, which you can only have awareness in presence. Now, yes, you can move. So this is really cool. As you're moving up the scale of consciousness, you have a set frequency that is kind of like your paradigm that you live in most of the time, depending on how far up that you've been able to get in your lifetime. You may naturally reside in a paradigm that is somewhere here, like around acceptance, which would be beautiful. That's a beautiful life there. Let's bring it down a little bit. Let's bring it down to pride. So if you're living in the paradigm of pride, then that means that prideful thoughts or pride thoughts, things that make you separate and better than or worse than or what have you, they're both a form of pride. When you're not conscious, the thoughts that you are tuned into, that your antenna, the antenna of your brain is tuned into, there is a collective consciousness out there that you tune into. And depending on your paradigm, your bandwidth, that's what it's going to tune into. So you might see something outside of you. And because you live in the paradigm of pride, you're going to start pulling thoughts from that paradigm to make sense of what's happening. And then you begin to create it because you are a powerful creator, consciously or not consciously, and you'll begin to create it. So let me give you I'm going to get a little vulnerable here. This is a perfect example of what I did all my life. Okay. I was put on a therapy couch at 8 years old, which I thought pridefully was wonderful, right? I learned self-inquiry. It was one of the greatest things ever at a really young age. But I also decided for myself at some point unconsciously, I'm broken. I need to be fixed. I don't get to play with the kids out on the ball field. I need to sit on this couch and talk about my problems. And then I talked about my problems a lot, right? I mean, just digging in and talking about my problems, which made me feel more and more broken. And like I kept needing to be fixed. And so there's this constant seeking to be fixed, to be better. And so I went in this self-improvement path forever, right? It was just like I call myself a transformation junkie because I kept rebuilding and reforming myself over and over and fixing and fixing and fixing. Granted, it was a good path to take and it brought me, up the spiral, into higher levels. But underneath it all, I couldn't break free until some of these bigger awakenings, especially in this last year. I couldn't break free until I stopped identifying as broken. I had to stop identifying as being rejectable or not lovable or just broken in some way. And like, who's going to choose that? Well, I wasn't choosing me because I was the one who was holding myself in that state of feeling broken. So what was I projecting and creating in my world was evidence of not being chosen or feeling broken or needing to be fixed or constantly seeking. Whoa, right? That's how it works. So until I brought awareness, consciousness to it and thought, wait a minute, this feeling doesn't feel good. And there must be something in my thinking, some meaning I gave it that made it so. And I can correct that. I can let the feeling pass and then go to the mind and ask for revelation and an understanding of what was that. If I need to learn something, what was that? And so that's really step two. Step one is to feel it, feel it, feel it, let it move. You can be curious about it, but don't go to the mind about it yet. Just you can be curious about the texture. Where is it? Is it moving? Is it shifting? And then suddenly it'll just go. And sometimes you have to just like release in some way, like scream it out, or, you don't want to hurt anybody. Obviously, keep it to yourself in a sense. But, I've gone in my car and just screamed at the top of my lungs just to get that energy out. So don't worry about it. Somebody might think you're a little nuts, but that's okay. No judgment. So you want to get that, feel it. That's step one. Step two being now we can, once the feeling has passed and it's passed through and been alchemized and transmuted into love, then you can ask some questions about it if you want to, and go to the mind, the masculine. Okay. We've dealt with the feminine. Now we're dealing with the masculine. So what was that? What was that feeling? Is there something that I need to learn about it? Please show me. And just ask for the revelation. Ask for it. You don't have to go diving into it, because then you're going to probably end up recreating it and recreating the feeling. So be careful with that, but ask for a revelation. Or if you have some really clever questions, there's so many really great teachers online. I mean, obviously, that have, like Byron Katie, for instance, the work, she's just does incredible work around this, where you can then bring it to the mind. And then you can ask yourself, who am I without this feeling? Is this feeling really true? What brought this up? Is there something that I need to understand, or in order for this to move forward, for me? And understand that the way that spiral works is you're going to have the same lessons come again and again, but slightly different flavors and different ways. This actually happens in the energy work that I do. Somebody will trap an emotion of, let's say, frustration, for instance, and it'll come up multiple times, because each time that emotion was trapped, it had its own circumstance around it and a very specific situation where frustration could be trapped in many, many places in the body. And so it'll come around again, sometimes a little different, a little bit more with more clarity and so on, to be alchemized. Okay. So feel it, then you can go to the mind with it. The masculine, is there something I'm supposed to learn? That would be the subtle purification. So the body, the feeling would be the gross purification. And then the mind would be the subtle purification. And now slowly but surely, as you're doing this, that spiral is bringing this closer and closer and closer into unity, into union, as you've continued to clear the field. You continue to remove the belief systems of the mind, the emotions and the distortions of the body, and the misalignments and so on that are caused by this, and bringing yourself more and more and more into wholeness, more and more connectedness with your creator self, being the higher self, the soul, and all those aspects of the truth of who you are. And then more harmony, more peace, more healing naturally. So I make it sound super simple in the sense of feel it, and then go to the mind. And it truly is that simple. It's not, we've made everything far more complex with the ego and all the constructs and all the things. I'm not here to try to give you all these crazy steps. It's basically just to remember you are a masculine and a feminine. And the more you can bring these into working back into coherence together with feeling and thinking correctly, using the mind correctly and the body correctly, then your soul can embody and bring you back to your multidimensionality from a conscious standpoint, where you can become a creator here on this planet now, which is what we're called to do. It's pretty cool stuff. So again, if you're interested in working with me, I do alchemize these energies, mine them out very specifically in terms of the feminine and the masculine aspects and any distortions that are actually forming in the body to help to clear those out. The wall around the heart, addictive energies, reverberations and things. So definitely learn about that just so you know that that's possible if you want to get a real jump start on your journey. And certainly if you just don't feel in control of that at this point, or you have some real stuck things in the body that are keeping you from being able to see yourself as whole or healthy or on that path, I'd love to help you with that for sure. Nonetheless, stay tuned, make sure that you're subscribed, because I'm going to continue on this conversation or this, just sharing as I'm further and further at the tip of that spiral in terms of locking into sustaining that consciousness rather than maintaining it, because, you can kind of dip in and out a little bit. As I'm moving further and further into sustaining that, I want to continue to share this journey and new insights and tricks and ways that this might help, and new ways of putting it so that it can become more accessible as I get better at articulating. So I'd love to hear your comments and questions if you have any. And until the next video, have an amazing rest of your day.